it is really disappointing to think that I once supported this man and believed in his agenda, and to see the type of things that he's pushing now.
Former Trump White House aide Sarah Matthews gave a very interesting interview on MSNBC to Jen Psaki the other day. Remember, of course, Jen Psaki is Joe Biden's former White House press secretary. She now has a show on MSNBC. Sarah Matthews was an aide to Donald Trump at the White House. Sarah Matthews, that is, weighs in on why she can no longer support Donald Trump. And it's very interesting to hear, because this is now, we've heard from just your average voters why they can no longer support Donald Trump. We heard from Mike Pence why he can no longer support Donald Trump. But this is a little different. This is somebody who was involved in a lot of the nitty gritty, saw a lot of things, more in like a Cassidy Hutchinson style role. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Let me start with the comments from this weekend. What did you hear? I mean, you worked for Trump for some time. You obviously resigned, as I noted, on after January 6th. But he said it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. What did you hear when you heard that?
Trump oftentimes speaks in these kinds of incoherent, vague sentences. And so that allows people to draw to the conclusion that they want to fit their own narrative. But I think when you look at this sentence, obviously the Trump campaign is out there saying, of course, he's talking about the auto industry. But then why would he use a phrase like, that's going to be the least of it immediately afterward? That alludes to something more. And in my eyes, yeah, sure, he could have been talking about the economy. But I think when you're looking at who the messenger was of this message, this is a man who helped incite a deadly insurrection on our nation's capital. So when he's using terms like bloodbath, it's really hard for me to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Let me start.
That's a former Trump aide. And this has become a propaganda battle, quite frankly. Oh, Trump was obviously not talking about a bloodbath in the streets. He wasn't talking about another one of the riots that he already incited a few years ago. He just meant the auto industry will struggle to sell cars. And I think the honest way to report it, there has been some dishonest reporting about the bloodbath comment. There's no doubt about it. Not to pat myself on the back, but obviously I reported it the way I think it should be reported. Trump warns about a bloodbath, which in literal terms he ties to the auto industry. But given the way that Trump signals his followers, and given Trump's past actions and the context, we all know that he's talking about more than that. That is, to me, the most honest way to report this. It's not nothing the way that MAGA defenders are saying. It's not Trump deliberately saying, I am calling for violence in the streets if I lose. But he is using the same sort of violent language that we know he's used before. And I think Sarah Matthews knows it better than anybody. Here is another clip from this interview with Jen Psaki about Trump's fitness to serve and the relationship between Mike Pence's pronouncement that he won't endorse Trump and that reality.
I want to ask you about former Vice President Pence, because he said that Donald Trump calling January 6th insurrection as hostages is unacceptable. Everyone has not said that, certainly. He also said he wouldn't be endorsing Donald Trump. I wanted to get your reaction to those comments and sort of what you think the impact might be or might not be, I guess.
I mean, I honestly got emotional when I heard these comments. I think I know Mike Pence to be someone who is a man of faith, a good man who only wants what's best for this country. And I think that it took a lot of courage for him to come out and say that he would not be endorsing Donald Trump. I mean, look, it's unprecedented. No vice president has ever said that their own former boss is not fit to serve. And he knew, like I knew when I spoke out against Trump, that kind of effectively ends your career in Republican politics. And I think he knew that by saying he wasn't going to endorse him, that he might have been kind of signing away any future that he wanted in Republican politics. And so I admire him for coming out and saying that. I wish more Republicans would have a backbone like him and follow suit, because I know that so many Republicans privately say these things and believe Donald Trump is a disaster and unfit to serve, and that January 6th is a horrific day for our country, but they would never publicly say these things.
Do you think he's going to stick with it?
Do I think, I hope that Mike Pence sticks with it. Obviously, I think he has said that he won't endorse him right now, but I think that it would be it would be weird for him to go back on his word then and say he's not going to endorse him and then flip. So I think that it would make the most sense for him to stick to it. He did the right thing on January 6th, and I hope that he'll continue to do the right thing and not endorse him. And I don't think that I necessarily expect him to say he's going to vote for Joe Biden per se, but I
don't think Joe Biden's expecting that either.
Exactly. But I do think that it is a huge statement for a own vice president to say that he is not going to support his former boss. And
you are going to hear, we already heard it from Trump, and you're hearing it from other MAGA people, that it's no big deal, really, that Mike Pence isn't endorsing Donald Trump, that he's not voting for Donald Trump. And who really cares? Sarah Matthews is absolutely correct. And she's in a position where she's willing to say it, where a lot of these other cultists aren't or aren't yet. It is a major deal that your own former vice president, who, by the way, your supporters wanted to kill, right? That's not a small detail here, that your own former vice president isn't endorsing you. One last bonus clip. Speaking of former Trump advisors, here's Alyssa Farah Griffin also weighing in on the fitness of Trump.
Pence coming out, this is a person who's been in the conservative movement before anyone even talked about Donald Trump in politics. There are people like me all over the country who trust him. They think he's a man of faith. He's likely who brought them around to Trump in 2016. And for him to say this, I mean, I teared up when I saw it, because I said on this show, nothing will break my heart more than if Mike Pence endorses Donald Trump. And he didn't, because he knows better than anyone. This man is historically unfit and he's dangerous. And quickly, I want to say, I think world affairs played a role in this too. Donald Trump refusing to support Ukraine. I met with the former president of Ukraine with Vice President Pence. I've been to Poland to visit our troops. I've been to NATO meetings with him. He fundamentally sees this as a tide-changing moment and a generational moment. And I hope he keeps saying this loudly and other Republicans follow.
Now, obviously, I don't agree with Alyssa Farah Griffin about how lovely Mike Pence is, but the point that there is not just a rift anymore, this is the official divorce, for lack of a better term, between the Mike Pence wing of evangelical conservatism and Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. Indiana, Pence's home state, and the entire country remains filled with millions of so-called Christian Republicans who love Trump and absolutely plan to vote for him. But the fact that we are now seeing not only people at the advisor level, not only people at the staff level, but even people as high as Pence say this has to end. Romney, Christie, these are all different wings of the Republican Party. It represents, as we see in the voting, about 40% of the Republican Party. 40% of the Republican Party, before everybody else got out, that was voting for someone other than Donald Trump. The practical question is just, will it be enough to keep Trump out of the Oval Office? I don't have the answer. It's up to us.